nothing nefarious in this bill. The communities that surround the portion of the port that it's in are primarily African American communities. And far too often, something comes up that hurts those communities. This is not the case. This bill has been well vetted, 159-1 last year, and the entire Savannah delegation is for it.
The Georgia House votes to expand the authority of law enforcement officers to make arrests around Georgia's ports. Good evening and welcome to Lawmakers on day 15 of the Georgia legislative session. I'm Donna Lowry in Atlanta. One major focus this session is attacking issues relating to crime statewide. Two members of the Senate Public Safety Committee join us in the studio to talk about a few of the bills under consideration, including legislation to combat terrorism and street crimes. And there's a movement to offer the music industry tax incentives similar to those enjoyed by the film industry. We'll hear what the Joint Study Committee on Georgia Music Heritage learned in its research. Among the lawmakers joining us on the topic, one who was once nominated for a Grammy Award. But first, let's get to our Capitol correspondent, Rochelle Ritchie, who is standing by at the Gold Dome. Rochelle.
Well, hi, Donna. Most of the news under the Gold Dome coming from the House today as several bills passed. The morning started with the Capitol surrounded by police, but not to worry, it was all for a good reason. It's Law Enforcement Appreciation Day at the Capitol. While the GBI shared some of their special equipment with legislators outside the Capitol, inside the House and Senate honored law enforcement officers with special resolutions.
I'm honored today to recognize February 8, 2023 as Law Enforcement Appreciation Day here at the Capitol. The reason we're able to live in these great communities many times is because of the incredible public safety that exists in those communities that protects those of us who choose to walk the straight and narrow, the opportunity to do that without harm or any harm coming to our families.
You don't have to watch the evening news a lot to see the turmoil that goes around in the United States. But here in Georgia, I'm proud to say, we don't have those problems. And like Randy said, we don't have those problems because of the brave men and women in law enforcement that we have. And that wouldn't be a success without this body here, because you've always had our back in everything we do. The governor has our back, and we certainly appreciate that.
In the House, several bills passed without opposition. House Bill 35 expands the authority for port officers to conduct arrests under certain circumstances and provides additional powers and duties.
There is nothing nefarious in this bill. The communities that surround the portion of the port that it's in are primarily African American communities. And far too often, something comes up that hurts those communities. This is not the case. This bill has been well vetted, 159-1 last year, and the entire Savannah delegation is for it.
House Bill 52 passed unanimously. The bill relates to highways, bridges, and ferries and the composition of the Department of Transportation Board. HB 55 also passing today. The 110-page bill focuses on repealing laws relating to international banking corporations and banking agencies. And House Bill 77 passed and will provide a fourth judge for the Superior Court in Dougherty County, which is buried in lingering felony cases.
The circuit has 10,000 plus pending felony cases. Over 2,500 of those pending felonies involve serious violent felony offenses. There are 50 pending murder cases. Many of these are gang-related. And we have over 600 in our local jail with 200 Superior Court pretrial detainees that have been in jail for over 2 years.
The bill passed unanimously and will go into effect July 1st.
I guess we better call him the senator from the 8th. He's got his emotional support animal over there, a 3-foot long alligator there.
And finally, while we have all heard the political phrase drain the swamp, it was just the opposite in the Senate chamber today. Senator Russ Goodman from Cogdell, Georgia, read a resolution celebrating one of Georgia's 7 natural wonders, the Okefenokee Swamp. Visiting the chamber was one of its smaller residents as well as one of its larger ones. The swamp is currently under consideration for nomination as a United Nations Wild Heritage Site. And Donna, today was Public Library Day, Sickle Cell Awareness Day, and Doctors Day. So a lot to celebrate here at the Capitol. That is my Capitol report. Donna, back to you.
Thank you. A lot of people at the Capitol today. Governor Brian Kemp promised to get tough on crime as one of his legislative priorities, and we're seeing bills to do just that beginning to roll through the legislature. Joining me to talk about them are Republican Senator John Albers of Roswell, who chairs the Senate Public Safety Committee, and Democratic Senator Harold Jones, the second of Augusta, a member of the Public Safety Committee, a former Solicitor General, and the Senate Minority Whip. Welcome to Lawmakers to both of you. So I'm going to start with you, Chairman Albers. Let's start with one of the bills you have that deals with crime, SB 11, the Georgia Fights Terrorism Act. So it deals with domestic, cyber, biological, chemical, nuclear, all kinds of terrorism. Tell us about it and what you hope it will do.
Well, thank you, Donna. This bill allows the GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, to proactively investigate anything to do with terrorism. Our state agencies are considered support agencies, whether it be the State Patrol or the GBI, where local sheriffs or police departments will ask for their help. There are certain cases, though, that we give the GBI what's called an original jurisdiction ability to go by themselves to investigate and then work with those jurisdictions as well. Obviously, something terrorism related will quickly transcend a city or a county boundary, and we want to make sure we're staying ahead of that at all times. I'm very proud of the great work all our men and women are doing in law enforcement, and they are truly working together like never before in our state.
Yeah, it sounds like this is something we need that we didn't know we needed until as the years go by and we find out about these things.
Absolutely, and this was actually a bill that we kind of supported. So there are some bills out there that are getting it a little bit tough on crime that we don't support, but this was one that we actually did support.
Okay, so then you have another one, and it's SB 12. So tell us a little bit more about that one. That deals with gangs.
It sure does. So gangs are the single greatest threat to violent crime to our families in Georgia right now. It's estimated somewhere between as low as 70, but as high as 90% of every single violent crime is committed by criminal street gangs. It's terrorizing our community, and what we're seeking to do here is making sure we're holding them accountable. Repeat offenders, violent offenders, those who are taking advantage of our most vulnerable population, our senior citizens, those with special needs, and certainly our children. And we have to be hard on those violent criminals. Now, we learned a long time ago with criminal justice reform, we need to separate the people we were mad at versus the people we were afraid of. These are people we're afraid of that are causing harm, and we're going to make sure that they are held accountable for their crimes and they get put in jail when they need to be so we can protect Georgia citizens.
It calls for mandatory minimums on some of the sentences.
It certainly does for certain violent crimes, and especially when using firearms. Look, for folks that are continually being habitual offenders and breaking the law, they have to be accountable. We cannot have a rotating door of justice where people are in and out all the time. Sometimes our system works good, sometimes it does not. We want to give them all the tools they need.
All right, how do you feel about that bill?
Mandatory minimums, unfortunately, do not work. That's the problem. And so we've actually been very much opposed to mandatory minimums. When you look at it, there's no real revolving door. If there is, and I've asked this question at other particular venues, what judges are actually letting these persons out if there's a revolving door? What counties are actually doing this? I can guarantee you if most persons are convicted of a violent crime in Georgia, they're going to get jail time. Mandatory minimums is basically just an easy way to try to address more core problems that affect society.
Yeah, but their feeling is a lot of the crimes are being committed by the same people once they come out.
Well, that is actually a proven fact that we have repeat offenders that commit the majority of crimes. And my colleague and I get along very well, but in this point, we absolutely disagree. Look, we have to make sure that we're holding people accountable. We're having some of the highest crime spikes we've had in decades, and we need to make sure that we give everyone, to be the police, the district attorneys, the prosecutors, or the judges, all the tools they need to make sure we're putting these bad actors behind bars where they belong.
Can you say?
Well, one of the problems is when you look at it, we do have a spike in crime, but it actually occurs in basically 2 or 3 counties. But yet these mandatory minimums will affect the whole state. And that's what I would rather do, is actually maybe do a study committee to actually find out where these spikes are actually coming from. But if you look at the statistics, yes, murders are up, but the murders are actually up in basically 2 or 3 counties in the state of Georgia, and that accounts for much of the rise in crime.
Yeah, the bill has come out of committee. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine, Donna. The bill will actually be in committee on Monday.
Okay.
But I think it's important to note again, somewhere between 70 and 90%, up to almost 9 out of every 10 violent crimes in our state are criminal street gangs. So we have to cut the head off the snake and stop these groups, because they're recruiting our youth and they're causing great harm. And we want to make sure that we all live in a society that we feel comfortable and safe.
So we'll hear more when this goes to committee Monday, right?
Monday.
Okay, I want to talk about another one. Senator Jones, you have a bill that would make possession of small amounts of marijuana make it a misdemeanor, is what you want.
Right, so it is a misdemeanor now. Up to 1 ounce is a misdemeanor. After 1 ounce is a felony. What this bill will actually do is say up to 1/2 ounce, it'll be a fine only, no jail time. And then from 1/2 ounce up to 2 ounces, then it would be a misdemeanor. So over 1 ounce right now, it's a felony. Think about what a felony does. You lose your right to vote. It causes you problems as far as getting housing. It hurts you as far as getting jobs are concerned. If you're a young person, you're not eligible for Hope Scholarship. So what we're trying to do is cut out the felony punishment aspect of it, and that's why we're presenting this bill.
Yeah, your thoughts on that?
I don't think anything we do to lessen the impact of drugs is going to be a benefit to society. It's been proven that drugs in all forms cause nothing but chaos, lead to other crimes, and I think we ought to be working to make sure people do not do drugs, but I don't believe changing the penalties is the right way.
Okay, I want to talk about another one. Earlier today, the Senate Public Safety Committee, you both were there, sponsored a bill by Senator Rick Williams with 22 other Republican signers that would place dogfighting as a possible racketeering activity under RICO. So talk a little bit about SB 68.
Dogfighting is terrible, as in any other fighting that involves animals. And what we've seen in the past is oftentimes this is not just a singular incident. This is an organized group of people who are creating the scenario, the housing, the infrastructure basically to run these operations. And if they're connected to criminal street gangs in any which way, shape, or form, we want to make sure we're prosecuting and going after the entire entity, right? No different than many years ago when we named public enemy #1 and we went after the mafia. Right? Kind of a same scenario here today. We need to go after these groups of people, and if there is a criminal enterprise, we're taking them all down.
Yeah, your thoughts on this one?
We actually have 41 predicate crimes. I think this now makes 42. The bottom line of what we're doing is we're continuing to say, look, we know there's issues such as poverty and lack of education. We'll get to those, but we continue basically to try to just increase penalties. It doesn't work. Georgia has some of the strongest anti-gang legislation in the nation. If that scenario worked, then why are we here now? The bottom line is we need to address some of these core issues that we refuse to do. We're going down the same path that we've done historically. We talk about the fact, yes, we understand that poverty is an issue. Yes, we understand that education is an issue, but we'll deal with that later. We always want to deal with those things later and just try to make everything more punishment. It does not work, and we have to be smart on crime, not just tough on crime.
Yeah, so is it making it a RICO the problem?
Well, dogfighting is absolutely. Dogfighting is already illegal, and I can guarantee you this: Georgia's a tough state when it comes to sentencing. Our judges are very tough, and they should be. Those persons are actually going to be incarcerated. What this actually does is say we've done something when we really haven't done very much. Prosecutors already are going to be charging these persons with crimes, and if other crimes are available to charge them with, they're going to do that. This is just basically kicking the can down the road and not dealing with the core issues that actually cause a lot of these issues. We've been here. We thought we solved it when we did criminal justice reform, and we're going backwards. And what we're going to find is not going to work. 7, 8 years from now, we'll be talking about again, we need to do criminal justice reform.
Okay. Did the bill come? Well, I'll let you finish that. Your
Well,
thought
the
on
bill
this.
did pass, and I believe
Yeah.
this is criminal justice reform because some of the things that we did several years ago, we're now feeling negative effects for. But I do agree with Senator Jones that some of the root cause of the issues we're not addressing. And you know what? That starts with parents. I have 2 boys who are adults now, and I love them, but I am their father, not their friend. And until parents and grandparents and churches and synagogues start actually taking the responsibility for their youth, we're not going to solve that by government. And I'm asking everyone who is an adult to step up.
All right, well, stay tuned on that one. I do want to talk to you about one more, and it's totally different from crime. It's a bill that you have that you're looking to drop to put student advisors on not only the state school board, but local school boards. And can you briefly tell us how you got to this?
Absolutely. Anytime I meet with students, I always give them a homework assignment. And usually that's a big groan when I say that. But my homework assignment's pretty simple, and it's that them to give me a great idea for Georgia. I don't care if it's an itty-bitty idea or a grand idea. And I've done this many times over the years that they'll help me take this bill from beginning to end and literally be next to me when the governor signs it into law. And this young man, Jake, who was in East Cobb in high school last year, drafted this bill. He's at UGA now in order to get student participation on the local and the state school level. And I think it's a great idea. We certainly want that student involvement, and I can't wait to the day that Jake stands next to me and Governor Kemp when he signs that into law.
Okay, then. Well, we'll keep up on that and everything else. I want to thank you both for being here today.
Thank you, Donna.
We'll let people know what happens with these bills.
All right.
All right, coming up, a look at why the state's music industry wants to be in tune with the film industry when it comes to tax credits.
Lawmakers is made possible by Georgia Farm Bureau. With over 80 years of helping everyone understand the importance of agriculture in our state. After all, ag is Georgia's #1 industry. Food and fiber production represents over $74 billion in output of Georgia's strong economy. The Georgia Farm Bureau legislative team works to represent producers across Georgia at the state capitol during the session and year-round. Georgia Farm Bureau, the voice of Georgia farmers.
Here's what's new this month with Passport.
Kirsten had a lot of courage. She fought for Black culture.
They could have killed you. You're exactly what we need right now.
My God.
What is this?
She was poisoned.
These and all your favorite shows are available with Passport. Support your PBS station and stream more with Passport on the PBS app.
We care about things that affect the lives of every American.
We are there at the front line
to get to the heart of what really matters in every issue.
This country has not seen this in 80 years.
This extraordinary moment in American history.
You're making such a huge impact.
Trust is at the heart of what we do.
One of the easiest ways to support GPB is to become a monthly GPB sustainer. Your monthly support continues automatically month after month and supports not only the great programming that you love on GPB, but also our efforts in the community. GPB is committed to provide a trusted space for lifelong learning on the air, digitally and in person all across Georgia. All this is made possible with your monthly support. And we can't do it without you, so please donate right now at gpb.org/give. And thanks.
Welcome back to Lawmakers. I'm Donna Lowry. When the General Assembly approved giving the film industry tax credits to films in Georgia in 2005, few people could have anticipated the impact the movie business would have on the state. As of now, a $4 billion industry. Now Georgia's music industry wants the same, having produced everyone from James Brown and Gladys Knight to Trisha Yearwood and Travis Tritt to REM and Outkast and so many more artists. And joining me now to talk about the music industry is Republican Representative Casey Carpenter of Dalton, and he's chair of the House Creative Arts and Entertainment Committee, and Democratic Representative Inga Willis of Atlanta. She's a Grammy-nominated songwriter and talent manager who worked at LaFace Records with artists such as TLC, Carlos Santana, Anthony Hamilton, Lauryn Hill, and so many more. NSYNC. Even that. Thank you both for being here. As we get started, let's hear from someone who spoke at one of the committee hearings on this issue.
To increase the base credit of 15% to 30% of the income tax credit. Look, all of these figures, we know the competition, right? We know what's happening in Pennsylvania, what's happening in Louisiana, Tennessee. The point is we need to at least get even with those guys. We're not even with them now. If we can, or surpass, then I think we can get the attraction. Now, I can't guarantee you that Mick Jagger will bring the Rolling Stones to Georgia with these incentives, but I'll tell you one thing, I can guarantee you you'll get his attention.
Okay, Chairman Carpenter, you went to those hearings. You guys had, what, 4 or 5 of them around the state. And that's Chuck Lavelle, I should say, a musician who had just finished with the Rolling Stones, I guess, before he talked with you guys. So let's talk about it. Other states are doing more when it comes to music than Georgia.
That's correct. Yeah, we are behind the curve on incentives for music. And the sad thing is, if you look around the state, I think you read off a few, but I mean, Georgia is a hotbed of talent in the music industry. And so we're losing our folks to, obviously, Nashville's a big pull in the country music scene and other scenes. So, yeah, it's definitely something we've got to evaluate if we want to be competitive. And I think as a House and as a legislative body, we have to make that decision.
Yeah, Representative Willis, you would agree. Tell us what the music industry, you've watched it evolve over the years, though.
The music industry is ever evolving and changing. It's not a static industry. It changes technologically. What does not change is the fact that the robust history that we have here musically has made Georgia a more attractive state for film and for Hollywood to come here. That helps create the magnetism and the undergirding of what makes Georgia attractive for creatives. So it's not something that should be excluded. As my colleague has said, of getting on the level of what other states are doing. People are still moving here in droves. There's still an exodus of talent moving here, and what we don't want is a reverse exodus because they can do business somewhere else for a better deal.
Is some of that happening, that there are people who are in Georgia or going to other states?
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, Elton John's going to London to do music work because the incentive's better in London. I mean, you know, there's so much talent in the state of Georgia. People crave it and they all steal it because then we don't have an incentive to be able to match it. You know, and I think that's what the study committee really focused on. You heard Chuck Lavelle talk about it, is how do we tailor it so that we actually get, because there was one on the books, but nobody was using it, so it wasn't set up correctly. The numbers were too high, et cetera, et cetera. So we're definitely evaluating that.
No bills right now dealing with this. So what can we anticipate?
Yeah, so we are working on legislation coming from the study committee. There's a couple of pieces. There's actually some talk of establishing a music office under the governor. Similar to what they do in Texas, where they just literally focus on music in the state and the little pods. And another piece I think is interesting is, you know, you hear about everything we do, economic development, we want to get outside the metro area and spread it to the entire state. Music kind of already does that, right? I mean, you've got Macon, you've got Athens, you've got Valdosta, there's a production studio down there. So you've got the Albany and Southwest Georgia, all the country music talent coming out of there. So it is already non-metro. Granted, metro, you have your hip hop and you have some stuff out of Atlanta, but there's pockets of talent all over the state.
Yeah, you would certainly agree with that. Let's talk about the economic impact. You're a talent manager. When artists come in, we're talking about their hotel rooms and food and all of that. Talk a little bit about what they bring to the state.
When artists and creatives writ large come to the state to do complete projects, that can be anywhere from a few months, you know, it can be 6 months. It just depends on how creativity doesn't have a rigid formula. Sometimes you have timetables, but it's really about being somewhere where you can get the vibe going. And that happens in Metro Atlanta. That also happens in Athens. You know, I've worked with rock bands in Athens, Georgia. We've gone all over the world. Every genre of music is here. And the economic impact is reflected when we put a soundtrack to the Olympics and made the music industry a part of that soundtrack. Boom. everybody wanted to be here working. And I think that we share a similar value system in the fact that we want to continue to make Georgia the #1 place to do business.
I think it's interesting when you talked about the fact that you think that the film industry is successful because the music industry was here first.
I think that the music industry having success first has been catalytic for the magnetism of the state of Georgia for creatives. People knew and still know that they can come to Georgia and to Atlanta. If they start in Atlanta, they can go to Athens if they want to do a certain genre of music, but they know that they can come here and get work and stay working. And there are pipelines to the workforce through the music industry that don't require being on the microphone. We have recording engineers and so many other positions to be filled that there is an economic impact, but also a workforce development pipeline that cannot be overshadowed.
Yeah, so that's another, and that's a lot of what you probably heard during some of these hearings.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's obviously there's some talk on the work development front of establishing an opportunity to use some HOPE grants, et cetera, to get into the production side, because there's a need for more talent, not just in recording soundtracks, et cetera, but for movies as well. So, you know, there's just so much crossover between the two industries. It's silly not to focus on choosing one or the other. You know, why does it have to be either or, right? Why can't we choose music and film and keep them together and let them rise together?
Well, you know as I do that every year this comes up with people who are pushing back against the film industry incentives.
Sure, yeah, there's definitely a lot of talk about that. Obviously, I think there's people, if they get out and they see the investment in the state of Georgia. We talked today a little bit about what's going on in Athens with Athena Studios that wants to be in Athens because of the creative people we're talking about. So then you start talking about writing scripts and the whole infrastructure of film being in Athens. I think you got Shadowbox is about to invest $550 million in expanding their studio in Decatur. So the numbers are big.
Would the incentives be exactly the same? Is that what you're talking about?
No, they wouldn't be exactly the same. The transferability piece is a real challenge for a lot of people. So that wouldn't be on the table. But there are some other ways that we're going to look at bringing some language that's more palatable, if you will, because it is the transferability piece is a challenge.
Yeah, explain what that is again.
That just means you can transfer, you can sell it basically. And so you use it to cash flow your production.
And that's a big part of it as far as you're concerned too.
Absolutely. I think that we agree on data, right? So the music industry, per the study, 70,000 professional industry jobs in the state of Georgia, right? So any incentive and opportunity to increase the cash flow of your business, particularly for these businesses who have survived a global pandemic and are still standing on their feet. One thing that doesn't change, regardless of what's going on in the world, is the necessity of art. And music is a universal language. It is bipartisan. It is REM and TLC. It just is. And we talk about music all the time together, but if you are not incentivizing the heartbeat and the pulse of those 70,000 music industry professionals, which again include recording engineers, mix engineers, people who work on all sides of the creative process. And I think people just think of it one-dimensionally as the artist that's standing at the microphone. There's an entire team that has to be employed to make one individual successful, and I think that needs to be considered as we discuss these things.
So these bills we should see soon, like in the next week or two.
Yeah, the time is of the essence. So yes, you'll just be on the lookout. Should be some good stuff. So.
Okay, I have to ask you while you're here, Representative Willis. You've been here a month. What's it been like? I have to ask all the new lawmakers that.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm learning. I'm also observing process people, personalities, but I'm also getting calls from my constituents who sent me here to represent my district, which goes from Southwest Atlanta to Buckhead. And my music industry colleagues are part of the reason that I'm here. They helped me get here. So I'm getting asked about these things all the time. So what I'm enjoying the most is being able to apply issues that actually matter to me and to my district to my future legislation.
And so real quick, I know people are going to want to know what your Grammy nomination was about. And it was In Sync.
It was In Sync. No Strings Attached album. I used to work with Lisa Lopez of TLC, and we did a lot of co-writing, and that was one of the opportunities that it afforded me, and that became a movie with Clint Eastwood.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for being on the show. Thank you both for being here. We'll keep up. We'll keep up with what's going on.
She's killing it. That she didn't say that. I'm saying that. She's killing
doing it. So you're keeping up with what's going on down there at the Capitol, huh?
I'm gonna see him again tomorrow.
All righty. All righty. That does it now for Lawmakers Today. We'll be back tomorrow for Legislative Day 16. And for more of the world of politics, tune in to Political Rewind with Bill Nigut at 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. each weekday. Good night.